So, Marten, first of all, a couple of words about you and what you're up to these days. People know you mostly for MySQL.
Yes, that's true. I was the CEO of MySQL, the first and last and only. Now I'm CEO of HackerOne, and we just heard Sanjay Poonen say that we all are getting hacked or will get hacked. And if you are getting hacked, why not get hacked by somebody you can trust? You're laughing. We are not laughing. We hacked the Pentagon, we hacked the Air Force, we hacked the Army. We have 100,000 freelance hackers and security experts all over the world. And soon it will be 200,000. It will grow to 1 million. The best hackers in the world have signed up with us to be ethical hackers. They will break into your system, but they'll stop there and tell you what they found. You can fix it, and then the criminals cannot break in. Equifax, the data breach would not have happened if they had patched the vulnerability that they were aware of. So that's what we do for companies, for the government agencies, for startups, for anybody who has an online presence. We come in and we hack the hell out of you for your benefit. And we do it only on your invitation. So we will never do it unless you tell us to do so. But once you do, we find a vulnerability within 24 hours. And when we hacked the Pentagon, it took us 13 minutes to find the first vulnerability. When we hacked the US Army, it was 8 minutes. When we hacked the US Air Force, it was 1 minute. So that's our business.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so let's see if we could hack into some of the secrets of bringing and building companies between or across the Atlantic Ocean, as you have done and I've done and been involved in, and we'll see if we can bring any value around that. So I think that, as the headline here says, building and exiting, that we already concluded the fact that the exiting part really doesn't have very much to do with the building part, in that you build companies or you have as a CEO and a leader, and the exiting happens usually only when a company is in really good shape and it serves a market that is big, and there are other people who wants to come in, so we're not going to spend too much time on that. But in terms of building across the pond, is there really in your mind an alternative for not doing it these days?
I think there's, in the world today, there's absolutely no alternative to Silicon Valley. And the only place that has been able to a little bit challenge Silicon Valley is its neighbor, San Francisco, but nobody else. So if you are in a business that is driven by Silicon Valley, then maybe you have to come here. But at the same time, the world is full of businesses, and Silicon Valley isn't the place for all of them. There are lots and lots of business opportunities where you shouldn't come here. You should go to Chicago, Shanghai, Rome, London, who knows, Warsaw, Moscow, wherever it is. So for every business, you must choose where you go. But there is a particular field in technology where most of your customers, most of your competitors, most of the people you'd like to recruit are in Silicon Valley. And then you have very little choice. You have to come here. And if you come here, you have to be an Olympic athlete. You can't just come here with your energy and passion and pride or whatever you have. It's not enough. This is a place where only the Olympic athletes can even get anything done. So if you come here, you must be ready to keep training and do your drills every single morning, because once you're here, you are competing at the Olympic level. In sports, you don't get into the Olympics unless you qualify. But in business, you just come here and you're here. So you may think it's easy, but it isn't. It's even more difficult, maybe, I don't know, but it's as difficult as the Olympics. So if you come, it's really difficult, but you can also be very successful. But if you don't have to come, then don't. Go to Los Angeles, go where your customers are, wherever that is.
That's exactly what we tend to tell our portfolio companies. Where is your ecosystem and where are your customers? that's where you should be. And if it's not here, you certainly shouldn't be here because we can't afford to keep you here. So,
and with MySQL, mind you, we relocated one person, me. Everybody else were mostly where they were hired. So we were a completely distributed organization, but we had the CEO in Silicon Valley because the CEO builds the relationships that are needed here. And we adopted this saying that you don't have to be in Silicon Valley, but Silicon Valley has to be in you. And it worked.
It obviously did. Okay, so now then, when you in your previous life or with the experience you have looking at other people who are looking, or entrepreneurs that are looking at doing the same jump, what do you tell them being sort of the key benefits and the key challenges in building a company across the pond and having people all around, as you did?
Well, the benefit is if you come to Silicon Valley and you succeed, you know you are the best because all the best are here. So you really get to test yourself against the highest benchmark there is. Those who come from Europe, I always tell the same thing, which is in Europe, $1 million is a lot of money. In Silicon Valley, an hour is a lot of time. And it's a radical difference. And every time when I say this, everybody nods and says, yeah, so smart. He knows what he's talking about. And I do know, but I see people not learning. They don't know what we mean when we say an hour is a long time. If an hour is a long time, then 15 minutes is a long time. Then 2 minutes is a long time. And doing things fast is more important than doing them with frugal resources. Because you can always get back money, but you can never get back time. But Europe wasn't built like that. Europe is built the other way. Europe is very concerned with money and not at all concerned about time, which is why having a dinner in Europe is so wonderful, because there's no ending time. But when I came to Silicon Valley and I went for a dinner with people, showed up at 6, and I was like, wow, we'll have a nice evening, I'll get to know these people and we will enjoy it. At 8, we were done and we were home. We were in bed by 8:30. Because time is so valuable to everybody. And I didn't realize that they wake up at 5 to go to the gym for 2 hours and then do 2 hours of email, and then they go for breakfast, and then they sort of wake up.
Breakfast meeting.
Yes, breakfast meeting. But that's Silicon Valley for you.
Yeah, that is. And that's actually, having been involved with a number of companies sort of doing this bridging across, I think that really stressing on the point of sense of urgency is probably one of the biggest sort of gaps that we have in people's understanding. Because in Europe, sense of urgency doesn't have the same meaning as sense of urgency has here. And that has become very obvious.
And there's a group of people who are teaching us this today, and it's the Chinese. They are faster.
They are.
So they are even faster than the people in Silicon Valley. So Europe will be completely left behind if we leave it to Silicon Valley and the Chinese. Because no matter how uncoordinated they might be at times, they are moving so fast that the learning is much faster.
And they're actually changing another sort of similar kind of thing for us also, which is what we also tend to tell Europeans, that nobody in Silicon Valley is interested where you're coming from. They're only interested in where you're going. And that's a very sort of fundamental philosophical thing. The Chinese, I think, is taking that one step further, because even people in Silicon Valley can sometimes sound very, very philosophical when they talk about their previous startups, which for a Chinese doesn't have any value at all.
Yes, in Silicon Valley, when they say, oh, where are you from? Don't expect them to be interested in the answer. It's just a discussion starter. They don't really care, and they don't know. So if you mention some place like Istria, they wouldn't know where that is. Neither do I. Well, I think I know, but it doesn't matter.
But yeah, but that's the same as in New York when they say, hi, how are you? They're not really interested in the answer. We have time going here. Okay, so
But it's a paradise here. It is truly a paradise for the one who wants to do, who wants to accomplish something, who wants to work together with others, who is ready to go all in, abandon and sacrifice a lot of luxury in life in order to make one's mark. It's truly amazing. And in Silicon Valley, when people, when they ask you where you're from, they don't mean it. But when they say good for you, they do mean it. They genuinely wish the best for you. We Europeans don't know how to deal with that because we don't trust anybody. Like if somebody says good for you, we're saying, okay, what's coming next? But it is absolutely genuine in Silicon Valley, and you can make use of it. You could say, can you introduce me to somebody? Can you comment on my business plan? Can you something? And it works. It absolutely works.
Yeah, I just had a discussion last week with some Finns who were here to explore what this is all about, and we spoke about the concept of pay forward, which is exactly what you talk about here, and they said that, so that's like paying back, and they started to talk about payback, the payback system. I said no, because they don't owe you anything, there's nothing to pay back for. To pay forward is something, it's like putting money in the bank without sort of considering that you're ever going to take anything out of there. Somebody else is, you might stumble on some money later on, but that's just serendipity and sort of good karma rather than anything else. But going back to the actually crossing the Atlantic, a couple of three very specific key learnings that you have to share with some of the entrepreneurs in terms of the challenges of building across the pond company for success.
People often ask me when they should relocate to the US if they have started a company in Europe. And I always say, don't come here until you have customers. Because the US is not a protected or protective market. So you can sell here even though you are not based here. And if you can't sell by visiting and selling that way, then you're not good enough. So make sure you have a customer base already going before you even consider coming here, moving here permanently. That's one rule. And then go after your customers. If all your customers are in New York, then that's where you need to be, even though Silicon Valley sounds so cool. Or if you are in the media business, maybe Los Angeles is the place. Or maybe if you need to work closely with AWS and Microsoft, it's Seattle that matters. So you have to be very rational about where you go. We who are here in Silicon Valley, we will always say it's the best place. We're completely brainwashed, and for us it's this amazing fashion show where it's exciting every day. But for every business, you make your own consideration of where you should go. You must have customers ahead of time. You don't need to bring over all the people because the tools today are so strong. You can work with people all over the world, but you must have a presence and a physical presence for business development and strategic relationships. And then you must be completely fearless, and you must be ready to make mistakes, and all of these things that you need when you build a business.
And as the fourth thing, one thing very important for Europeans to learn here is always be on time. We just went over. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Michel.
Can you come up?